Scorpio, this is your tarot reading for the month of December. It looks extremely good, if you ask me. I remember last month's and I thought things were getting better, and this looks very good. What characterises it is the energy of charity. I think this is you being charitable. You could be receiving it. To a certain degree, it's about an energy. And if you have that energy of giving charitably, then it will come back to you. Now, I don't want to talk about that in a mechanistic way, like, I'm trying to think of the name, that American evangelical group, something theology, prosperity theology. Please, I'm not trying to say something like that. But I'm saying that if you do have that sort of energy, then it will surround you, and it sort of works both ways. In the recent past, you've been trying to fathom out what's going on, haven't we all? Going inside your head looking for answers. And certainly during December, I'm getting a steer that that's much better than going out rationally looking for them. But really, you need to be looking in your heart and not your head. Are you currently considering some quite radical options, quite radical things you're contemplating doing? You're only considering them at the moment, but yeah. And I think that leads to what is the future. This is after December. And that is you starting afresh on a new journey with a wide-eyed innocence. So that clearly is quite a radical option that you've chosen. Blessings and happy families lead to the outcome. So you're clearly blessed in a very sort of family way. What would change the outcome is you taking forward those options, radical options that you're looking at, and beginning to plan them out. Not necessarily actually doing them yet, but putting more effort into planning them. Which suggests to me that this new journey isn't a thought-out plan. I still think it's the right thing to do. The happy families, this blessings card, does lead you to being somewhat firm but fair, maybe putting up boundaries. I don't know if someone in your family sort of exploits you a little. But again, I don't see anything bad in any of this. I really don't. So let's get into it. As I say, the energy which dominates it is an energy of charity. And I generally say I don't know if it's charity to you or from you. And I also generally say that I feel it's you being charitable, but this time I felt that need to say that it's sort of a two-way thing because it's an energy. Now, I want to distance myself from the idea that you get back what you give, because you actually have to give openly and honestly, not expecting anything in return. But the universe does seek balance. So if you are being charitable towards others, you will receive charity back. I think this is about money, actually. I think it is, finances, wealth. This month, this energy has been cropping up, and let's face it, there's been a lot of deception around, including deception over money, but I can't see that in your reading. But I've interpreted this energy as you being charitable towards those who've deceived you. It might be relevant to you, but I've got a feeling this is much more about wealth. Now, I say there's no indication that you've been caught up in these deceptions, but in the past, you've taken yourself away and try to work out what's going on, which is a very good thing to be doing. Is that just the general level of deception, lies and manipulation in the world? Because I think we're all feeling it incredibly. I mean, only this last week, in a major European city, there's been a problem with football fans. And the news media have completely spun it to the opposite of what actually happened. Now, I don't think I've trusted the mainstream media for a long time, but to so blatantly twist what occurred in this city, I think is absolutely appalling and shocking, and confirmation that we really are living now in a post-truth society. So, I'm sure, like me, these things tax your thoughts. But as I said in the introduction, we're probably better off being led by our hearts than trying to think all these things through. Almost as though you've come out of that contemplation and you're now considering options, quite radical options, considering quite radical changes to your life. So there's clearly that something's got to you, as it has most people, you know. I'm not saying that it's that football incident in the press, but I think something has troubled you and you've thought you've got to change your life in response to what you see as probably a hostile world outside. And you are thinking of quite radical things, quite radical. Yeah. I see this as very positive. I mean, I see all this as very positive. That's not that you're not being intellectually challenged during the month of December. But overall, I see everything as very positive. After December, I do see you starting something afresh, starting something with a wide-eyed innocence. And again, I see this as very positive. But I don't think it comes from the options you were considering. There is an indication later that maybe there's some problems within the family, but does this mean you're walking away from your family? I don't get a very negative feel from it. It would be more a young person leaving the family, more that energy, than a parent leaving the family to it, you know? No, I don't see it negatively at all. And I think it's related to you having been thinking, now what's the overall energy? Is one of charity. Yeah. It's not negative. It's not negative. It's not a negative thing. Yeah. We'll have to move on. Now, what leads to the outcome are what I see as blessings, family type blessings, happy families, including probably wealth. And I've talked about deception over wealth. There is perhaps an indication that this goes on, but I'm increasingly maybe seeing this as more, you've got this security, you've got everything you want, but you're seeking something a little different. In the future, that is. Yeah. I don't think you know, this past card of The Fool. I just don't feel it's negative at all. This is a lovely, wonderful, happy card. The energy, this one. It's an energy of happy families, and it's an energy of many blessings. And it leads to the outcome, and the outcome isn't a bad outcome. Maybe we should leave it at that. Now, what would change or alter the outcome is you taking forward those options that you've been considering and planning them out even further. That's not necessarily following up on them, but certainly really thinking hard about them. How can I put them into action? And again, they're very radical. Maybe even moving overseas. Of course, this Fool, this starting a new life, doesn't necessarily exclude the rest of your family. No. But why would it change the outcome? I honestly don't know. But I can see a path here whereby this starting afresh could be with your family, and I've assumed that it's without. Yeah, the outcome is the Queen of Swords. Firm but fair queen. A very nice queen. People look up to her because she takes good decisions. I'm assuming this is you, because that's the way I read tarot. It does tend to be about you rather than another energy coming in. And I think it is about you. I think this is you. The other bit that I normally latch onto with this energy is it's an energy of appropriate boundaries. Now, this has come out of this family blessings card. And do you know what I think it's about? I think you are aware of the level of deception, the level of greed, the terrible things that are going on in the world at this moment in time. You know, I've just, and I'm not quite out of it yet, but I'm just beginning to come to the end of a dreadful, nearly a year, let's put it that way, of my entire life savings and my parents' life savings, which is my inheritance, being caught up in a catch-22 dystopia. And, you know, I live in Indonesia. There is no social provision. Not being able to access that could have spelt starvation for me and my family. And things like that are going on all around the world. And I think you are aware of it and feel you need to put up protection. And I think it's that leads you to starting a new life. And I think maybe the new life is like me overseas. Yeah. Well, we can summarise for you now. Scorpio, yeah. What an interesting tarot spread we have for you for December. Scorpio. You're being urged to be charitable. I think this is being charitable both in terms of, I don't like to use the word money, in terms of wealth, but also generous in your treatment of others. And I think the reason why you're being urged to be like that is that you're aware, as we all are, of the massive level of manipulation corruption, greed, betrayal out in the world. And in the past, I think you've sort of taken yourself off and tried to work it all out. But, you know, it's the sort of thing you'll find out from your heart more so than your head. But, you know, you've nobly tried to look what's inside your head. But as I say, it comes more from the heart. There's something you find quite disquieting, and you're therefore planning something quite radical. I think it could be moving overseas. Planning it quite radically, and, do you know, I think you are going to do it. I think you're going to take it up and you're going to action plan. And eventually you're going to move or do something very different with an open heart. And, you know, I'm somebody that's moved to another country. And, I mean, I wish I'd known more. I might not even have ended up here had I known what I do now. But, you know, you at the end of the day, you can't be adequately prepared. You can't. You know, I know, you know, you'll find supposed experts telling you, oh, you've got to consider blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's so much about this country I live in, Indonesia, that I couldn't tell you about even now. You know, what do you have to do this and what do you have to do that? And in part it's because I don't speak the language that well, but the main reason is that, you know, there isn't a sort of a westernised rule of law, you know. Laws tend to be interpreted locally, and, you know, people say there's a lot of corruption. Well, there is, you know, but that's not at the root of it. Anyway, all I'm saying is that if you are thinking of something quite radical like moving overseas, you can't plan enough. So in the end, you've just got to go with your heart. And I think you're doing this on behalf of your family. You're doing it because of your family have a degree of security, a degree of wealth. And you're worried about it. You're worried that it's under threat. And as a result of those worries, you've got to put up some sort of protection for your family. And I think you think the best thing is moving. I mean, it could be something different, but it's something very radical. It's a very radical change for you. But protecting your family does involve something very radical for you.